podcast family. It's Nomsa here at Ngosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lit from within. With me today, I have Amanda Maria. Hi, Amanda.
Good morning.
It's a 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. your end?
It's 6 a.m.
Okay, cool. So our topic today is how to use your pain as a tool. So in this video, we are going to explore how to use your pain as a tool. Your pain is a precious resource, and you should use it as a tool to achieve your goals. And we will explore how you can use the pain to achieve success in your life, in your career, in your relationship. And by the end of this video, you will have the tools that you need to actually harness the power of your pain and use it to reach out your goals. If you're looking ways to transform your suffering into a secret weapon for success, then this video is for you. What do you think about this topic, Amanda?
Well, so often we just stay at the status quo, right? Unless there's something that really pushes us to change. And so really, when you have something that comes right up in your face, like a pain thing, then it generally means that it's your opportunity to learn and grow is how I look at it. So anything that you're struggling with right now, you can always turn it into what can I learn from this, and how can I grow from this, and how is it helping my soul grow and learn, and in turn be able to help others. And so that's how I always try to look at anything that I'm really struggling with, is when I'm not in the anxiety piece of it, where I'm not struggling, I can take a step back and be like, okay, what can I learn from this situation? How can I grow? What is it that I need? What tools do I need to help me with this situation? And so my usual piece to look at is, as I go to books or I go to podcasts on the topic, and I start to listen to those, and I start to read those and see what pieces can I take that are going to help me with this situation. And so when we are struggling with pain, it's also I believe the universe saying okay, it's time to grow now. Are you going to take this opportunity, or are you going to push it to the side? And when you do just push it to the side, generally that pain and that struggle just shows up again in a different iteration of it. And so unless you learn from that situation, it tends to keep popping up and keep popping up and keep popping up. And so when we take our pain and we try to grow from it, when we try to learn and we try to then in turn help others, I believe that's when we truly can make our pain into a tool.
I love that, Amanda, when you say we can use, if we don't use the pain, it will show up in a different form. So we might as well use it as a skill to, like you say, sometimes you can use a podcast, or I think it's very, very important to understand that whatever experience we go through in life, there's a skill that we have to learn through that skill, through that pain, because some people use the pain as to let the pain to defeat them. But if we all realize that the experiences that we go through, there are some people who have gone through, let's say, abusive relationship, and they're doing Facebook Live, they've written books, some of them are doing podcasts. And in that way, if somebody who is in an abusive situation and they don't know how to go about it, they can come across that video, that podcast, and say, okay, so I'm not the only one, or it's not my fault. Because sometimes when people are going through abuse, they quickly blame themselves instead of seeing themselves as victims. Or if somebody is going through different experiences, maybe with work, or they are going through some challenges at work, and if somebody has gone through that similar situation, but they have decided to write a book and how they've been able to turn their situation around, And I think it does help somebody. Instead of when we're going through something, we are like, you know what, I'm just gonna give up. I'm just gonna not do anything, just being defeated, feeling defeated, basically. So it's very, very important to actually use the skills to gain strength when we're going through something in life. Or sometimes, like right now at Ngozi Talk Show, we have Carol Ann in a hospital. So that's what she does, like teaching here. And now she's faced with that. So she's actually gaining strength every single day. So her daughter was saying she's fighting through every single day, is because she knows that if she doesn't fight through that pain, no one else will. And if she does fight through it, she'll be able to share it with somebody else. But some people will be like in a position where, you know what, I don't even want to talk about it. So I think that I agree with you, Amanda, when you say even if we don't use the penny, it will show up in a different form. And I think that is very, very important. Over to you, Amanda.
Yeah, I like what you were saying about how everybody, it happens at some point in time, right? And that when we use our pain as a tool, it actually is this opportunity for growth. And one of the books I wrote, it's called Empower You: 6 Steps for Living in the Present Moment. And whenever we're struggling with pain with something, I always think we can turn to like, what can I control in this moment? Well, the only thing I can control in this moment is my brain, right? Or my reaction, or how I'm going to deal with the situation. And so that's something that once you like calm down from that initial like struggle or that initial stress, is you can take a step back and be like, okay, take a deep breath and be like, what is it that I can control in this moment? And maybe it is that you need to sit down and journal. Maybe it is that you need to sit down and think about forgiveness and what it is that it means to forgive and who it is that you need to forgive. And often forgiveness, people think, oh, I'm not forgiving that person because blah, 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 blah. Well, forgiving the person doesn't necessarily mean that you go and you apologize to them when you don't sincerely mean it. Forgiveness means that you are able to let go of the situation or the person for yourself, so that it's no longer keeping you stuck. And that's how I view forgiveness. And sometimes when there's been somebody who's been really difficult in my life, I've like written a letter and then burnt it and let go of that energy, so that I'm no longer holding on to that stress of that person, and been like, I forgive you, I like wish you well, and I love you, and like I love like the things that you brought into my life, and now I need to let you go and let this situation go. And I've even had to do that with family members because of just really unhealthy scenarios. And so that's something that people can do when they are struggling and with something in that particular moment, is journal and write it down, and then write down everything and just let it go. Rip it up, tear it up, burn it, and just really try to like be like, okay, this is no longer my pain and my problem. I'm letting it go so that I can move on and I can heal. And I think when we start to do that, and we start to realize that we can't control other people or other people's responses to things, then that's our opportunity for growth as well. And so often our pain is stuck in, well, this person isn't acting the way that I want them to, right? And so that part is something that's a really huge growing tool, right? I know if anybody has teenagers, they've definitely learned that sometimes they're painful, and yet there's nothing you can do to control them. So all you can do is control how you choose to approach it. And so that's something that I think we can look at when we're looking at pain too. And oftentimes teenagers, when they are lashing out and struggling, it's because they're in pain for some reason, and we need to get to the bottom of it, what it is that they're actually struggling with.
I I love that, Amanda, forgiveness. I think forgiveness is a very, very powerful tool, because when we forgive, it doesn't mean that we are saying it's okay, like what you were saying, it's okay for the person who has wronged us. And also we forgive ourselves as well, so we can let it go, like Amanda was saying. Is very, very important to let it go. It's very, very important. And also when you forgive, forgiveness is very, very powerful. I've met people that have gone through, um, uh, they've gone through deliverance, and some they go through meditation and they go to retreat. And then when they go through retreat, because sometimes we don't know the things that we are holding within, and they go to retreat and they say, oh, I went to meditation and I started crying and crying, and then there was a release, and then they never feel the same again. They just let it go of everything, so they just change. So I think it's very, very important. And also to identify the nature of your pain as well is very, very important, to be able to let it go, like what Amanda was saying. And also emotionally, because if we hold that pain inside, it would actually affect us emotionally, physically, and mentally. So the power of letting go is very, very, very important. And also to understand our purpose when it comes to life. What is our purpose? And also the impact of our emotions, because our well-being is very, very important. So that's why everything that we do in life, we have to take good care of ourselves. Self-care is very, very important. When you find yourself in a very, very, very painful situation, first you have to think about number one, which is you. And then in number two is taking step to actually get out of that situation. And so you can free yourself. But if you can't do it on your own, you can get professional help. It's very, very important to get professional help and to think about your well-being, and mostly to think about why you are here on earth. There are some people that get defeated by challenges in life. It's either relationship not going well, businesses, or maybe at work things are not going well, or sometimes it could be just problems with families, pain. Everybody just, it's just people give up. So you don't have to give up. You can use that pain. For me, most of the things that I do is the challenges that I go through in life. And when I go through life and then I actually I let go of that problem. And then after letting go of that problem, and then I ask myself, what is my purpose? Who is Nomsa? And what is Nomsa's purpose while she's here on earth? Is my purpose really to let people come into my life, take advantage of me, or is it to just let things just defeat me? What is my purpose? Then after that, if I get the answer, what is my purpose? Then I just go ahead and learn the skills of the things, or just make a video of whatever that situation might be. Like was it Monday, we had with other students, we didn't sleep for 48 hours because we had, like, I had 12,000 words that I needed to write for my assignment, and I was so tired. So I had to get creative in order for me to stay at work, and I had to see it as what benefits is it going to benefit me. I had to think about the ending in mind. Once I finish whatever I was meant to do, how is it going to make me feel, how the benefits and everything else that comes with it. And I was like, it's worth sitting in front of the computer, staying all night. So I just sit there, stayed in front of the computer. I don't drink coffee. I was just drinking coffee, so disgusting, but I drink it to keep myself awake. So sometimes it's those things that when you go through something, you find something that brings smile to you, you find something that motivates you. It's not easy, but you can try to do it. What do you think, Amanda? If somebody, I know you went through divorce, you always talk about how when you were on holiday, when you were posting pictures and people were like, wow, that is so beautiful. But deep down in your heart, you knew that this life was awful. But then you got yourself, you went through that process and had the courage to go through it and let it go, which is not easy, and find that healing through. So if anyone that is watching right now, what advice can you give that person that helped you to be here where you are today?
Through the divorce piece, well, I always think that people, when they're thinking about going through divorce, is like, what is it that is good about the relationship? Is there any possible way to save it? Or is it completely toxic and unhealthy for both you and your child if you have children? And for me, I went to a bunch of counseling, and then it became very apparent that this can never be healthy for me and my daughter. And so what are my options? And my option was to leave. And so I always encourage people first to like try to save their marriage, because if it is just unhealthy patterns that you have from childhood that you can actually fix, then and change, and if you're both willing to work on it and you're both willing to grow, then it could be something really healthy. Because if you don't heal those patterns, then they're just going to repeat in another relationship, and you're just going to be miserable in another relationship. And so when we start to look at it from that perspective of, is it my childhood wounds that are causing the disruption and the frustration in my marriage, or is it something that's truly bigger than that, where it just can never be a healthy situation? And for me, that was the answer. It could never be a healthy situation. And so that was then, once I realized that, that's the next step that you need to take. And really, it was a lot of counseling and a lot of really going deep into what is it that I did to contribute to that relationship, and why was it that I was a codependent? Because I started to learn that I had very codependent tendencies. Even though I was successful, I was a teacher, I was in my master's, I still really struggled with this codependency piece. And that's part of being a very empathic person as well. And so then I realized that when things arise, where I should go early, I try to stay and fix them all the time. And what I realized from that is that's not always my job, and some things can't be fixed. I don't understand why people work the way they do. And even if you look at like the scenarios that are going on in the world, there's much deeper things. It's not just the surface level of what's going on in this instant but on the Gaza Strip in Israel. That's something that's been going on for hundreds of years. There's been conflict in that area. So there's lots of anger and animosity and everything that stems back generations and generations that we don't completely understand. And so, and even with the Ukraine and Russia stuff, it's the same. There's been years and years and decades of conflict in that area that stems back generations that we don't completely understand. So you can't look at it from a different country and be like, oh, this one side's bad. It's like, no. You don't understand the pain and the struggle and whatever it is that those people have gone through for years and years and years, and the anger that's been passed on for generations, and why there's this deeper conflict. Because I even remember when I was doing my first degree in political science, I learned about Palestine and Israel and the conflict that had been going on there for years and years and years. And now it's flared up again. So this isn't something that's new. It's something that's been going on for a long, long time in that area because of conflicts of people's views. And so sometimes we also can't view what somebody else is going through from an outside perspective because you haven't walked in their shoes. And that's how I view those horrible situations that are going on in the world. Is I can't really pick a side because I have never walked in the shoes of the people that are in that conflict or what it is that their truth is. And so I think that's something that's really, really hard for people sometimes, is they just hear one side and then they're like, oh, that person is awful. And it's like, no, if you truly had empathy to really sit down and be real with the pain that people are going through, you might begin to understand why it is the way that they act the way that they do. And that can be on a larger scale or on something more intimate, just within your family or within relationships that you have. And so when we have that pain, we can either use it for like destruction or we can use it for healing. And I liked what you said about learning to let go, because I'm just reading from the book that I had written on letting go, because I wrote this on different tools that I used for healing. And it says learning to let go is something that's keeping you stuck is sometimes really hard to do. This is because so often our subconscious minds are holding on to something that's keeping us stuck. Even when we consciously realize what we're doing is a pattern that's keeping us stuck, so often our subconscious pattern will override in times of stress. And so I want you to think about that for a minute. Is you may be on this journey of healing, and then a stressor arises. And what is it that you automatically go back to? That's probably one of your patterns that are keeping you stuck.
I love that. What is it you go back to? Abdallah says, greetings. Yes, your words are true. Forgiveness and tolerance are among the basics of a healthy lifestyle. And considering that they create a new beginning for the relationship between people, I think that is amazing. Thank you so much for that. It's important to forgive, and also it's important what Amanda is saying, that whenever you find yourself struggling to find that healing, just go back and ask yourself, what can you go back to? Because you can't go back to that pain. Healing is very, very important. For me, I just go through healing, and the other thing that I avoid when I'm going through pain is feeling sorry. I don't like people feeling sorry for me. What I do is I just either read a book for somebody who is going through similar, or sometimes they've gone through pain, but different pain, or sometimes I just pray to God and ask Him to just fall upon me and just help me with my healing. And I find it does help a lot. And also, if I go through something, I find something positive in it. And once I find something positive in it, like I said before, then I have to ask, through this healing, what outcome do I really need? I used to struggle with pain. I used to struggle with what I've realized now, that in this world, we live in this world where life is so fast. And like today, my daughter went running. I help out at the school with running. And they asked me to go back with somebody else's child. I go back with that child, and they leave my daughter behind in the middle of nowhere on the road. And luckily, something said to me, go back. So I went back. And when I went back, I find my daughter, there's two guys in the van. They're like parking there. They're looking, why is this child by herself? Because I think they might have seen the group of people running. So I show up, and my daughter said, I just had to stay in one place because I knew you might come back for me. So I got back to the school, and now I'm in pain. I'm in shock. I was like, what is going on? And they're telling me different story. They're not taking responsibilities. And I was like, they got banned in the end anyway. They're no longer allowed to go outside running because of my daughter, leaving my daughter behind. But through that story, I said to the woman, you can't just blame a child. You have to look at when you are doing something, you have to evaluate your mindset has to stay focused, because sometimes we lose focus. So what they've done is they were getting carried away with the race, and then they forgot to look at it, to evaluate the whole thing. So sometimes with pain, we can get carried away with blame. But it's very, very important when you're going through something, no matter how much pain that person has caused you, to actually forgive, which is not an easy thing to do, and also get rid of the blame and just find a way out of it. Because like when we say self-care, because at the end of the day, if we let those who have hurt us, they will go on themselves and they will live their life like what Amanda was saying. Forgiving, it doesn't mean that we are saying it's okay. It means we are breaking free from that chain. And once you break yourself free from that chain, know that everything is going to work out fine, and just continue with the healing. Create a habit like journaling, monitor your thoughts. It's very, very important. Amanda mentioned that before at the beginning. Monitor your thoughts. Once you monitor your thoughts, your physical body, your health, monitor your food, what you're taking as well. It's very, very important to eat healthy as well, because our well-being is very, very important. And also have this strategy of designing your life. We can't protect ourselves from pain, by the way, because otherwise when you start saying, I'm going to protect myself from people, stop people hurting me, or relationship wise, if we say we're not going to date again, we can't label that on us. We have to allow ourselves to experience the beauty of life. It means I'm going to work on myself. I'm going to forgive those who have hurt me. If it's in a relationship, if it's at work, we cannot stop ourselves getting more promotion. Or if it's business, we cannot stop ourselves designing our business and designing our lives. So life must go on. In order for that life to go on, you can get a therapist. Like Amanda, she got herself a therapist. And I got myself a therapist as well when I was going through divorce. I went through three therapists, and I couldn't they were trying to trigger something in my head for me to break free from those chains, but I didn't get it. It was when I left the last person, I was like, let me fast. Because everything was inside of me. So when I fasted, and I fasted for 40 days, and on my last day of 40 days, it was then where I had to confront the pain now. And confronting that pain, it was like, why my relationship ending up with the same cycle? So I realized that I needed to go back to my childhood and deal with some things that I needed to deal with, the trauma from my childhood. No matter how much your parents loves you, there's still going to be something that your inner being or your inner child is not going to agree with it. So if you don't deal with that, so I had to deal with that myself. And after dealing with that, in the process, there were people that have hurt me as a child. In that process, I thought I was okay, but I wasn't, because we think we are okay, our surroundings, or we're feeling okay, but everything is stored in our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind has the information of what we have been through. So that's when I realized that actually I wasn't okay. But when I faced that pain, it was then I had to break free from that pain. And after breaking free from that pain, now I'm looking at the things that I was like blaming and looking at in a relationship, blaming my parents for their divorce. And I realized actually I didn't care even about my parents' divorce. My mind was making things up. I actually was glad that my parents divorced. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got the life that I had, because I got to have another family, my stepdad, and so it was beautiful. So I realized actually it was my mind that was making things up, and the confidence, trying to be a follower, trying to fit in. So sometimes those pains, sometimes we are the enemy of our own. I was the enemy of my own, because I made friends and I tried to behave like my friends, and I tried to follow them, their character, their image, but it didn't work out that well. My body did not agree with whatever, and my emotions, everything in my body, my soul, my spirit did not agree with whatever the path that I was taking. So then I had to redesign now by accepting the real me. So you can do that by letting go and just designing your life based on you as well, based on your want, based on your purpose, based on your desires as well, based on, some people use culture. I don't use culture anymore. I used to use culture, and I listen to most, like some people on YouTube, they make sense that sometimes our culture can hold us back. So we had to go back. So I had to go back and question my culture as well. And they were saying, there's a pastor that Dr. Lukoya, he says, most of the things in the culture is a made up thing. People make up things. So I realized, I started questioning my mom, asking my mom, and she was like, actually, I don't know why we do that. Maybe we do it because everybody's doing it. So I realized, actually, the guy is telling the truth, that people make things up when it comes to culture, and that can hold somebody's life captivity. So over to you, Amanda.
Yeah, I liked what you talked about, how no matter what, no matter how good your parents were, there was something that didn't meet some of your needs and that you would have struggled with. And it might not have even been through your parents, it could have been through friendships or situations at school or something else that was happening around you at that time when you were a child. And we bring that pain into our adulthood. And that our healing actually starts with ourselves, not with anybody else, and our willingness to start to explore and have a healing journey. And so in the part of the book that I wrote that says healing starts with you, it says so much of our hurt and pain comes from subconscious programming that we learned as children, which I started laughing at because I was like, oh, this is exactly what you're talking about. Much of what each of us struggle with is mostly linked to generational trauma. This type of programming continues from generation to generation until someone decides to break that pattern and begin to heal and take it into their own hands. The only person who can break your generational programming is you. And so if you really take a look at what you want to do to heal in your life and begin to let go of that generational trauma that's keeping you stuck, you can begin to let go of that subconscious pattern cycle. And breaking patterns is sometimes hard. So be gentle with yourself and take the time you really need to reflect on the work that you're doing. The healing journey also takes time. And then I talked a little bit in here about like being the perfectionist that I am. I really struggled with not being able to do enough to make my marriage work. And what I learned through my healing work was that I was approaching this and many other situations in my life the way that I approach teaching, by trying to fix everything, when there are things that are not meant to be fixed. They're meant to evolve into something completely new. And so I think so many times we often approach things as like, I can fix this. I can fix this. Let me fix this. And some things aren't meant to be fixed, and that's okay. And that's a big realization of like, how can I approach my life where I don't have to fix this one scenario? I can just let it go and evolve into something completely new. And I think that's something really powerful, where you can take a step back and shift your thinking on that. And that's a really, really powerful tool, is to be able to let go of the notion of like fixing things and approach and appreciate and let things come in as they're meant to evolve. How are they meant to evolve for you? And you were saying that you weren't angry about your parents' divorce anymore, that you actually were grateful that they did, because it allowed you to have a really great relationship with your stepdad and all of these things. And so that relationship wasn't meant to be fixed. It was meant to evolve so that you would have these other really positive impacts in your life. And I think when we start to view it from that perspective, that really opens up doors to healing for us and to letting go of pain.
I love that, Amanda. I love that when you say, I love this story, like what you've written in your book. And I also love when you say some things are not meant to be fixed. People think they can fix everything. They can sort out everything. I was listening to this guy who wrote that book, Stop Giving a F Word About Life. Why not stop giving? And I was like, he's telling the truth. It's like everybody goes and wondering and worrying about how they can fix this, how they can do this. And he was like, sometimes some things are just not meant to. And at the end, in that process, we end up getting stressed, we get depressed because we think we can fix everything. And it was like, just find a break through it. When you go through something, or when whatever is going on, find a way through that, find joy. And I think that is very, very important to understand that we can't fix everything. It's like me in a relationship, I have an attitude now that, like when people are in a relationship, they'll spend time biking each other, fighting each other. I always say my job is not for me to fix my other half. My job is to mentor them, is to make sure they are motivated. But the rest, if there is something that they are not happy, they need to fix themselves. Or there's so many things, even with business, if you meet people, if they are not nice, you have to, if I meet somebody who is not nice, I'm like, oh, it's one of them. I don't really worry about, is it what I've done? Why is it always things like that? No, I don't worry about it anymore. Because at the end of the day, there are some things we can, like myself, like what you've written, Amanda, in the book. And the pain, it can go generation after generation as well. And my pastor, Dr. Olukoya, that talks about the culture that people make things up, 99%. He talks about the roots of he says, whatever you go through in life, you have to look at your parents, look at your grandparents, look at your ancestors, the life that they've lived, because sometimes it could be something that is being passed on to generation, but you can break it. You can break that cycle. Because like I was chatting to somebody in their bloodline, they have this thing, a depression, where somebody ends up taking their own life. It's a cycle that I said to her, but it can be broken. You can break it if you guys want to break that. It doesn't have to be something that is attached to your bloodline. So that is another pain to those families as well. So you can look at the pain and just instead of letting the pain take over your life, and just deal with it by designing, be the changer in your story. Change your story. You can rewrite your story how you want to write it. Or if you are somebody, like, let's say, I always, like, when I wanted to come to England, I hadn't gone to university, but I looked at my friends, and I was like, I looked at my friends' sisters, siblings. All they were doing is they get married, they go to school, finish school, and go to uni, and get married, and go to work, and that's it. And so I was like, is that my future? That's what I have to do. I have to go to school, get married. After getting married, then I have to find a job, and that will be it. Nothing exciting. The job is mostly office work. And when parents, their child graduate, they are so proud. And then after the graduation, now is married. Now they are asking, now, where's the man? Or if you are a man or a woman, where's the woman? And that's it. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to travel. So when I started telling my family I want to travel, they were like, you are young. You can't travel. I was like, yeah, I can. Who said I couldn't? So to me, it was like looking at my family And my parents, I'm like, they're divorced, remarriage. So that means I have to go through this story. I was like, oh no, I just need to create my own story. I created my own story. And even now that I'm in the UK, I'm still writing my own story, how I want it to be written. And my brother asked me one day, he said, oh, don't forget you have to pay lobola, Martin has to pay lobola. I was like, paying lobola to who? And he was like, because that is our tradition. I said, if my dad was alive, we can do that thing. But now that my dad is not here, I was like, no one will ever replace my father. There are some things that cannot even be replaced. So I was like, we can't do that. We cannot do that. So I was like, I'm not going to do that. The tradition that you guys. So I asked my mom, I said, why do you guys do this lobola thing? And my mom went, actually, I don't know. I think it was just because everybody's doing it. So that's why we are doing it. So then I had my pastor talking about it, and I was like, I'm not going to do it because of the pain that I went through. Losing a parent is not an easy thing. And I was like, I've lost my dad. And this is the man that raised me. He paid for everything, going to school, growing up, my nappies. And then somebody has to come in and sit down and sit on that chair, pretend to my father. And I was like, hell no, I'm not going to do that. So what I would do is I would just find something as a legacy for my dad, as a legacy for my mom. But I'm not going to do what everybody is doing. I decided I'm going to write my own story, how I want to write it. Is it wrong? No, it's not. And because of the pain, and I was like to my brother, you don't understand what I went through when I lost my dad. I lost a best friend and I lost a father. So for somebody to come and say, I'm going to sit there and do this, I was like, no, I can't. So I decided to write my own story, how I want. So if anyone is watching, you can write your own story and also cut the noise. People talk. And their opinion, it does not mean that they're right. Write your own story based on what you really want in life and through that pain. And also, don't worry about people judging you. People will always judge you anyway, whether you're doing the right thing. So for me, I stopped worrying about being judged by people because I've seen that no matter how no matter how hard you try to be nice, people always find something to say. So you might as well design your life, get on with it, and also get mentors. It's very, very good to have a mentor in your life, which is Nkosi Talk Shows, is what we're about. We have coaches from all walks of life. So if you have a specific problem you want to deal with, we have that person that can deal with that situation. So you can live your life freely, find your own voice, and lead from within. Over to you, Amanda.
I like what you talked about rewriting your own story, because it's also part of what's in the book that I wrote. And really, rewriting your own story sometimes is just about shifting your perspective of the story that you've actually lived. And so one of the things that I had done in a retreat shortly after I decided to separate was I went to this retreat through the Hoffman Institute, and it was essentially like a 7-day retreat, I believe, where you deal with a whole bunch of your childhood trauma. And one of the things they made us do was write our story. And so we had to write what our childhood was, what it was like growing up, all of these things. How was school for you? All of the things about your life. And then they made us read it. And then they made us look at how much of it was negative and how much we focused on the negatives. And then after that, we had to rewrite our story from the perspective of a positive. And so, for example, this isn't my story, but this was maybe somebody else's, or the example that they gave us, I can't remember. But there was one person who was like an army kid, and they basically had to move all the time. And so it was super hard having to like make new friends and leave friends and be constantly changing your friends groups and not being in any place for a really long time. So you have like no roots and all this like negative funnel. And then when they rewrote their story, it was, I was from an army family and our military family, and we moved all the time, and I got to see the whole world, and I got to experience so many different places and learn different languages and learn different cultures, and so many people have never experienced that. And I was truly lucky to have all of those opportunities, because it into my adult life allowed me to really value travel. Those are the same stories, but shifted from a different perspective. Same person, same kid, different outlook. And I think that's a really, really powerful thing to think about, is what story are you telling yourself? Are you telling yourself the hardship story, or are you telling yourself the empowerment story? Because both are true. Those same stories were the same person, and both were completely true stories. So it's how they choose to perceive their childhood, how they choose to perceive that situation, how they choose to perceive and use it as either a hardship or an empowerment. And that's really something that we have the choice to do. And so, Nomza, when you say you rewrite your story, or you have the power to write your own story, you also have the power to rewrite your past in how you perceive it. And I think that's a really, really powerful realization, is what story are you telling yourself? And then how can I shift it to a story of empowerment? And that's really, really something truly powerful, and a very big tool in order to change your pain and shift your pain from a struggle to an empowerment. And so when we are in that space of like, oh, my life is so hard, all of these childhood things are what brought me to this struggle and I can't get out of it. Well, like, what is it that you could shift, even just a little bit, to look at how far you've come and how much you've achieved? And I think if you take that perspective, you'll really be like, wow, I have more power than I thought I did.
Love that. I've just written down rewrite your past, because that is very, very powerful. We can rewrite everything. We can be the changer. Some people, they look at the family members, they're like, they blame and like, no, you can actually be the person who changes. Rewrite history in your bloodline. So rewrite past is so powerful as well, because you get to tell the story that you want as you go on. It's a new birth, born again. So it means I'm going to tell the story how I want to tell it, not the story that was programmed to me or that was planted in my life. So that is so powerful. Amanda, thank you so much. And guys, if you're watching, please connect with us on our social media. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, or go to the website and just fill out the form for consultation, and follow us on our Facebook page. There's Nkosi Talk Show page. You can like the page, join the group, Unique Billionaire Mindset, join the group as well, and be part of the family. And if you want to connect with me and Amanda, you can find us everywhere on our social media. And on the website, there's a phone number and email address. You guys can get in touch and rewrite your own story and rewrite your past. Live with grace, everyone, and God bless. Amanda, do you have anything you want to say? Awesome.
You have so much power inside you to shift your pain into a learning opportunities. So take whatever it is that you're struggling with now and use it to power your shift and your empowerment and your growth and transformation.